On this week's episode of the Best of Johnston County Podcast, our guest is Randy Capps, the owner and founder of JNOW Media. We talk a little bit about his journey to Johnston County, his work in the newspaper industry, and how he got tired of the day-to-day of having to fill the front page of the Fayetteville Observer with negative news, and why he came to Johnston County. And when he got here, he decided to start a community magazine, the Johnston Now Magazine, to promote what's positive about Johnston County, just like we do here on the Best of Johnston County Podcast. We also discussed with him a little bit about his love for high school sports that him and I both share, and his JoCo Sports website, where he broadcasts a high school game of the week every week from Johnston County every fall. It's a fascinating conversation of a small town guy who ends up here, builds a small media empire that is really doing well and promoting what's positive about Johnston County. I think you will find his insights into life and how he got here and what he's trying to do absolutely fascinating. So join us and listen to this week's episode of the Best of Johnston County Podcast with Randy Capps.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden, and on today's episode, we have Randy Capps, the owner of JNOW Media, which controls Johnston County Magazine and JoCoSports.com. We're going to talk to him a little bit about his evolution in media, the different types of media he's been involved, why he started Johnston County Magazine, why he started the JNOW Awards, and how the JoCo Sports Network came to be, doing high school football games in Johnston County every Friday night in the fall for the last few years. But before we get to that, I want to remind everybody to like, follow, or subscribe to the Best of Johnston County Podcast, wherever you're seeing it, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, or any of the other Best of Johnston County podcast social media pages, so that you'll be made aware of future episodes of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. We would also like you to leave a 5-star review if you've enjoyed this podcast, because it will help us reach more people who will learn more about the Best of Johnston County Podcast, and they will listen to it as you're listening to it, because we all love Johnston County. Welcome, Randy, to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, no problem. So you and I have been friends for a long time, but a lot of the listeners probably haven't know you or your brands. It's kind of growing. It's amazing how much it's grown since we first met. So just start with, what's your name, where you're from, all that good stuff.
I'm Randy Capps, as you mentioned. My wife and I are from South Carolina originally. She's from Dillon. So if you ever drove by south of the border, that's where she had her prom. That was our second date. There's some context about where Marion and Dillon are. We're both media survivors. She worked in advertising for television stations and newspapers in North and South Carolina, and I worked with newspapers pretty much since high school, forever and ever. Our last stop was the Fayetteville Observer, where I was paid to find the worst stories I could think of and put on the front of the Fayetteville Observer website. And as you might imagine, that left me with sort of a sour taste in my mouth about my chosen profession. So the Four Oaks Journal was the antithesis of that, which is no murder, no crime, no mayhem, all positive stuff you would cut out and put on a refrigerator and show my kid hit a home run in the Little League game or won the spelling bee or something like that. And that's sort of how it started. That's the short version. There's obviously a much longer version, but this is a 30-minute podcast.
I got you. So where'd you go to school? You have a journalism degree?
I do. I have a degree in communication studies from Gardner-Webb University in Boiling Springs, North Carolina. They were foolish enough to let me walk onto the tennis team, and as an 18-year-old, that sounded like fun. So that's what I did. I had a great time. My wife finished her degree at NC State. She started at Winthrop and went back later as an adult and finished it up at NC State. So we're both North Carolina educated, if not South Carolina born.
I got you. Well, growing up in Laurinburg, I definitely know where Dillon is, and we played them in football.
Oh, sure,
and
yeah.
Going down there, the sort of the battle of the borders, and south of the border, of course, being the sort of central point. You know, the funny thing is, I've had the good ability to travel all over this country over the last few years, and people was like, well, where'd you grow up? And if I say south of the border, probably 70% of people I talk to, regardless of where I am in the United States, know where south of the
Sure.
border is.
Absolutely.
On I-95, just south of Lumberton. So
It is hard to miss.
yeah, and while I did not know the owners personally, my dad did, and one of his good friends was their accountant for a long time.
Alan Schaefer and Company. Yes,
Yeah.
I know them well.
And it was just sort of a fascinating marketing and concept, and how Mr. Schaefer drew the billboards himself with color chalk on a stencil. And it's just a fascinating study, and somebody should probably make a Netflix special about how it came to be, how it got marketed, how they got the road to sort of go where the land was, some politics with Strom Thurmond and all of that. But anyway, so when did you leave the Fayetteville Observer?
I left the Fayetteville Observer in March of 2015. I was made surplus to requirements is a nice way to say it. Literally know 100 journalism friends that have been laid off, and I'm just like them. We had already started planning the 4 Oaks Journal. In fact, my wife had already quit and was working on it. So what we did is we changed our plan. She went back to the Fayetteville Observer. They were happy to have her back. She was their best salesperson. And I started working on the magazine full-time in 2015. Our first issue was May. So we're coming up on our 10-year magazine anniversary next year in May, which will be amazing and interesting and humbling in a lot of different ways. And it sort of went from there. And your next line of questioning would be, well, how do we get from a magazine just delivered to the zip code in 4 Oaks, which is what that was, to Johnston Now? And the answer is everybody else wanted one. Matt Zapp at the time was with the town of Benson. He's like, how can we get that here? Tim Kerrigan at Smithfield, how can we get that here? The folks in Clayton, same thing. And instead of doing 5 different magazines, we decided to do one big magazine. So we dumped out the 401ks, and Shanna quit her job at the Observer, and we dove right in and started with Johnston Now Magazine in December of 2016.
Okay. Well, I remember my first meeting was you were doing the 4 Oaks Journal. I think I bought an ad in that, if I'm not mistaken. And I really thought it was neat. I thought it was a neat concept. It was positive. It wasn't breaking news like you'd done at the Fayetteville Observer. I enjoyed it. And so, I mean, it was probably a good idea, seeing the success now of Johnston Now Magazine, to take the concept of let's do something positive, community oriented, and take it to the whole county that's got 275,000 people now.
And it's funny, when we started, obviously Johnston County was a much different place. If you think about 2008, when I moved here, there were probably 85,000 people here, maybe something like that. And now there are 230. So as we've grown, the county has as well, and we've had to evolve. But the idea really isn't new or innovative. In fact, it's old. I mean, it's what newspapers used to be. And I'm a newspaper guy. It's all I ever wanted to do. But, newspapers have changed. I mean, they used to be owned by people, and now they're owned by hedge funds, and they're run accordingly. Instead of telling people what they want to know and need to know, it's agenda driven. We can have a whole different argument about why that is. But the point is, people used to get the newspaper to see what their neighbors were doing. And that's really all the magazine is.
Okay. And you've kept the concept of positive stories, community features. The articles you read, part comedy to me. I find them funny and entertaining, sort of, this is what I've done, and, your story of stuff you're doing.
You'll enjoy next month. You wait.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's good. How do you, tremendous concept. So how did you go out and be able to sell it and market it to where it would become profitable? Because that's always the hard part of any of these types of things.
It very much is.
I was in radio a little bit in high school, I interned at WRAL for a number of years. And so while I don't have the background you have, I have a pretty decent idea of what should happen on the back end. And the product's one thing, selling it's another.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's so true. I'm fond of saying that without my wife, I would have starved to death a long time ago. That's 100% true. She is the brains of what we do from a business standpoint. She has the marketing mind. She can sell ice to Eskimos. I don't know how she does it, because I can't sell anything to anybody, and people like me. And so if people didn't like me and didn't know me, I wouldn't have a chance. But no, she's done all of that. I just provide the product in a lot of ways. I'm the talent, as we say in the office, and she makes it all work. But you need both pieces. I know lots of people like me that have tried to start magazines or websites or podcasts or whatever, but you don't have the sales end. You have to find a way to monetize it. And that's really the trick with media as a whole, not only what we're doing, but you have to find a way to not only give people value and content that they want and need, but you have to monetize it. You have to find people like you willing to support the ventures that you're trying to do. And you have to have partners in that, and you have to find a way to make it all work.
So the Johnston Now Magazine is a monthly magazine, correct?
Yes.
When does it come out and where is it distributed?
First of the month, about 180 different places around the county, basically anywhere you buy groceries, a lot of places you eat, a lot of doctor's offices, places like that. We have a bunch of delivery routes that we run in different parts of the county. Distributech, a company out of Raleigh, helps us get into a lot of food lines. Those are really our biggest distribution spots. It would be challenging to get one in the hands of 230,000 people, so we don't try to do that because obviously that's prohibitively expensive, but we try to put them in areas where a lot of people congregate to just sort of, give people a chance to see it.
So how many approximately are you printing now?
About 10,000 a month.
10,000, okay.
Yeah.
And they all get given out, I guess.
Most of them get given out, yeah. I mean, it fluctuates from month to month. There's some months that we're completely out by about the 15th of the month, and then there's some months where there are a few left over at the end. It just depends on the month.
Do you reprint if you run out?
We've never done that, but we could. As you know, paper is prohibitively expensive, especially color glossy paper like the ones we use. It would be a lot cheaper to use newsprint, but it wouldn't feel as good. It wouldn't hold up as long. And one of the things we enjoy about the magazine is it can sit on a table like that for months and months and months. And it often does.
And true. And because it's community stories and highlights, the news doesn't get stale.
Right. It's a little
because
timeless.
it's not, it's, not even really a news magazine. It's a community magazine.
It's community magazine. I mean, I've done the breaking news thing. I've put the breaking news bar on websites and I've chased all those sticks. And the folks at RAL do a fantastic job with breaking news. And if that's what you want, that's where you should go. That's not what we're doing. We're not trying to compete with anybody doing the day-to-day news stuff, even the Johnstonian folks. That's where you go for news. That's not what we're doing. We're community living. We're community lifestyle. We're stuff that you can't find anywhere else.
And I've enjoyed reading it over the years. And can somebody go and order it? Can you get a subscription to it?
You can read it for free on our website. We used to do subscriptions, but we can't find a way to make sense of let's buy the envelope, let's put the magazine in the envelope, let's mail it to somebody and not charge them an arm and a leg to do all of that because it's expensive. And so because we do the free version online, we usually just steer people in that direction. Now, that being said, if somebody emails me from Nebraska and saying, I'd really like a copy of this magazine, I'll throw one in the mail and send it out there. But I don't announce that except to folks on your podcast. But we find ways to make that happen. It's always humbling to me when anybody actually cares that we do a magazine.
That's cool.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So how many employees does the magazine have?
We're at 8. JNOW Media has 8. The
Okay.
magazine itself is only a small cog now in the JNOW Media empire, if you will, because we do a million different things now. So we have 8 people on staff. We have the office over in the Home Masters building in Smithfield on the way out of town. And most of that building is now us behind desks, toiling away at various projects that we do.
So what else is in JNOW Media? I mean, I know you have the magazine. I think you have this internet sports stage. I mean, I don't quite understand all of it.
So the JNOW Media umbrella is, of course, JNOW Media is the big umbrella. And then there's Johnston Now Magazine. There's JNOW Digital, which is our website company. We build websites. We do search engine optimization, search engine marketing. We do social media management for people, blogs, you name it, all the digital stuff that you can do on your phone and work in that realm. We do JOCO Sports, which, as you mentioned earlier, is the Game of the Week broadcast. And my attempt to sort of keep track of what's going on with Johnston County high school sports. Those are the main cogs in the wheel. And then, of course, we've done some other projects as well. Johnston Now Honors, which is the annual awards program, is part of that as well. It's tied to the magazine, but it sort of has become its own thing over the last 7 years or so.
Okay, so is it jocosports.com?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm right. Right. Okay. So that is a website largely dedicated to high school sports in Johnston County.
Yes.
And does it have employees? Is it updated regularly? I mean,
I am the only person that updates it, and it gets updated pretty regularly. The web designer that we had back in the day helped me build it, so technically he worked on it as well. But I could spend all day and do nothing else in the world in which I had that kind of time and keep that website updated. As it is, I do a few posts a week, and obviously the Game of the Week broadcast during football season.
So when did y'all start doing the Game of the Week?
That's happened last year. Our old employee of mine, a dear friend, Mike Bollinger, and I wanted to cover sports again because we were both sports guys. That's all I ever wanted to be, was a newspaper sports guy, and that's all I was until the turn of the century, basically. But we decided we wanted to do the Game of the Week. That, and Rick, of course, sold 102.3 to Curtis Media, and I didn't know that they were going to do it again. And I wanted to keep doing the game of the week. And so we're like, fine, we're going to start it. Now, we found out later that they were going to continue doing it under Kicks and blah, blah, blah. That's a whole different media discussion. But we just wanted to keep it going. I had done the game of the week color commentary with Rick. Every broadcast he ever did, I was on. I think it was 5 years. Had a great time and just wanted to keep doing it, which was really the whole reason behind it.
So that was done on 102.3 FM.
Right.
And it was owned by Rick Heilman. Mm-hmm. It was the Country Superstars was that station. And Rick, I guess, sold that to Curtis Media when he retired. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right. That's my understanding. And I remember talking with Rick when he was first thinking about doing it. And because I had done high school football when I was in high school on a Curtis station in Laurinburg, North Carolina. And so I had a pretty good background on it. I talked about possibly helping do the broadcast. The issue was, with young children and a growing business, to say I could be somewhere 13 straight Friday nights was not going to be possible.
Right.
And I was like, Rick, I can do maybe half of those. And he's like, well, I really need somebody that can do them all. And he's like, we're going to create a paid position. I was like, that's great. He's like, I'm going to make this really professional. And I'm like, well, I don't know how professional I am, but no, I completely understand. But I did have several meetings with him just talking about giving him ideas of how to do it and different things. And I don't know how much of it he took to heart or didn't. He knew more about radio than I ever did. He'd been in his whole career. But, I have this huge heart for high school football, just like you do. Being from Laurinburg in Scotland County, high school football was life when I was growing up. There was nothing else to do in these small towns. It was one school, one community. Everybody went there. Your big rival was Richmond County,
right.
Another one school, one community school, a ton of fun. And they do a nice job here in Johnston County. I think the high schools do a nice job. It helps when they win. A lot of them win. Princeton has been extremely successful over the years. Of course, Cleveland hasn't lost a regular season game in 5 years or something like that.
5 years next week.
Right. And, it's won six straight conference championships. Clayton is now good again, if they could figure out a way to beat Cleveland. But yet, other than Cleveland, they win a lot of games now. And so I've always thought of high school football as helping give a sense of community, particularly out here in Cleveland where we don't have a town. You know what I mean? We don't have a chamber of commerce anymore.
Right.
The fire department with Kim Lauder and Chris Ellington do us a Christmas parade, and they do July 4th now. They took that over from the Celebrate Cleveland Committee and Cookie Pope, which is great. But other than that, we don't have a community out here anymore. And I think it's great that the high school football team is there. I think it's good because people like a winner, Scott Riley and Joseph Capps, do a great job. It's just a big thing. And so I'm glad that you're promoting high school sports on JocoSports.com, that Curtis Media continued doing a high school game of the week as well over the air on 102.3. I buy sponsorship on that from them. And now there's JocoRadio.com, which is a whole new thing, and they just do Cleveland high school games. So we got a lot of people promoting high school kids playing the game of football in this county. And to me, that can be nothing but positive.
Absolutely. And people ask me, well, are you competing with them? And in the sense that we ask the same people for money, yes. But in the sense that we're covering high school sports, no. Like the other week, there were 4 broadcast outlets scheduled to be at a Clayton game. And I was the 4th one. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm going to change my game. So I went to Triple S and watched their game with Westover and was there by myself. And I was like, you know what? This is better. Because now instead of covering one team in the county 4 times, we're covering 2 teams in the county, which should be what it's all about. And the folks at the county athletic department, Josh Plisco and his staff, super helpful. Anything I need from them, I get. And they're the same way with all the broadcast crews in the county. And we all just work together to get more kids' names out there, which is really the whole idea.
Right. Do you know, I don't know if you know this, but do you know why REL is not covering as many games live as they were? Did you ever hear the story on that?
The short answer is money. I mean, Capital Broadcasting is a huge company. They have lots of things going on. I know Nick Stevens and his staff at High School OT really well. I did his show last week. He's a great guy. I get along with him great. They've cut back a little. They're still doing a great job covering the whole state, which is a really ambitious project that they took on a couple of years ago. I mean, from Murphy to Manio, they're trying to cover it, and that's massive. And really, they're the only organization that I can think of that's trying to cover prep sports statewide. and do it well. So where we've suffered a little bit here locally, a lot of other places have gotten more coverage because of what they've tried to do. And I like to think that folks like us and JoCo Radio and CRN and Curtis are trying to fill the gap that has sort of been left as REL has expanded its reach statewide.
Well, good. I didn't know the answer to that, and I was disappointed that they're not doing as many games as they were. But I did get a subscription to NFHS.
I can't say it either.
Right, which has some of the games
Right.
on them. And it's like $79 a year or something.
I did a game for them, and they still charged me to watch it. Amazing. I was like, I'm doing the game. I can't get a link. No, sorry, it doesn't work that way. Awesome. Thank you so much.
So let's pivot from high school sports, which you and I love, Mo. We could talk about that all night, to the JNOW Awards. You've been doing that for 7 years now. I think I've been a sponsor of the Firefighter of the Year for 3 or 4 or 5 of those years. Most of those years. Where did that ideal come from, and what is it?
My son gets the credit for that. My son, Ethan, he's 22. We were watching the Oscars, or he was, because I don't watch those. And he came in and he's like, I wish we had something locally where we could give awards to people that did really cool things. And his mom and I were like, what a neat idea. And this is, of course, before really the best of Johnston County and the Johnstonian took off. And we had some chamber awards around the county, but we wanted to give awards to people that don't win awards. Firefighters, police officers, healthcare professionals, veteran service folks, nonprofits, people that are doing amazing things. And me as a storyteller, I get to tell these stories, which fills what I call my passion bucket, which is why I get up in the morning. And it's so much fun to be able to shine a light on people doing cool things in the county that don't want awards, but really deserve them. And so it's always fun to meet these people and say, well, gosh, I don't deserve this. Well, yeah, you do.
I have enjoyed going and meeting the different awards winners. Usually the awards are in the summer. It's usually the 3rd or 4th week in July. Mm-hmm. And y'all take nominations starting in like March,
I think, right? It's actually around the turn of the year, really.
Okay.
Early January, we sort of throw it open, and then we start really pushing hard February, March, and try to wrap it up April so we can plan the next shindig, if you will.
Yeah, and there's 12 winners every year, and I'm not going to be able to rattle all the different awards.
I doubt I could, sir.
I know there's. I've always sponsored Firefighter of the Year. There's Police Officer of the Year. There's Volunteer of the Year. There's Nonprofit of the Year. There's Coach of the Year. Yeah. There's a teen Rising award,
Star,
Rising Star for a Teen of the Year. I really enjoy meeting the people, and you're right. It's not the people who normally winning the awards. There's a red carpet. It's really a lot of fun. So if you're listening to this episode will be coming out at the end of 2024. So the nominations, you can go to
JohnstonNow.com/honors. And if it's the end of the year, if you get into January, it'll actually be open. If you have one now, just email it to me. I'll take it.
So this episode will be running near the end of the year. So come email Randy or wait to January and go to
JohnstonNow.com/honors.
Right. Yeah, JohnstonNow.com/honors and see the awards categories and nominate the people that don't always get the recognition. But, I just think about the firefighters and, saving people's lives and putting their lives on the line every day. And I really enjoy being able to sponsor an award, meet the people, read the bios of them. And it's just absolutely amazing. And the banquet gets better every year. I think this year was the best, in my opinion, that it's been. I know y'all take feedback to try to make it better.
We do.
And so, well, that's great. So, all right. So we've done JoCo Sports. We've done the Johnston Now Awards. So I guess the next question would be, what do you love most about Johnston County?
It reminds me of where I grew up, or at least it used to. I mean, back when there were 85,000 people here, it was a lot closer to Marion and Dillon County than it is now. But what I like about it is that people care about each other. And I know that sounds hokey, but you go to the grocery store and you probably know the cashier. And so you have to talk about how everybody's doing. You know the lady that takes care of your dog, and you know your doctor, and you know the person you meet at the walking track. It's a community, even though Benson and Kinley, for example, very different places. Clayton and Kinley, very different places. We're all part of a community in Johnston County, and even the folks out here in Cleveland that don't really have a town per se. I mean, it's a community, and it's a lot like where I grew up, and it's comfortable. It's easy to be here. I wish the traffic situation were a little better, but
well, the word's out, and people are going to keep moving here,
right,
and the traffic is what it is. The Interstates project is now just about done. By the time this runs, it will be done. That's going to be nice, but then we get ready for the next phase of 540, which will go through Clayton over to Nightdale, and then, of course, hopefully in a couple of years, they're going to start on the Highway 42 expansion from Highway 50 to Highway 70 and add some lanes there. So it's going to continue to be traffic, but they're trying to build the roads and all that stuff.
They're working on it.
So if anybody wants to get up with you and see about advertising and any of the JNOW products, or they want to get JNOW to do their SEO, how's the way to do that?
Obviously, the website, johnstonnow.com, is the place to visit. Our email addresses are easy. Mine's randy@johnstonnow.com. My wife's is shanna@johnstonnow.com. We're not tough to find. 1260 West Market, downtown Smithfield. Pop by. We're usually there. So, yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Well, we'd like to thank Randy Katz for coming on and being our guest on this episode of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. As we mentioned earlier, please like, subscribe, or follow this podcast where you're seeing it so you'll be aware of future episodes of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. If you like what it said, give us a 5-star review down at the bottom. Tell us what you liked about Randy or your experiences working with Randy or reading his magazine. And he would love to hear it. We'd love to see it, as well as we enjoy reading Johnston Now Magazine, and I try to look at it almost every single month. Until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.